they always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Now, I'm going to give you my conference previews, my top 8, and then my NBA Finals previews, a couple other of my awards. But something I do want to get to is something that came up right before the show began. It's on ESPN.com. They're blowing something out of proportion. Again, LeBron James said that his goal is to be the best player of all time. So it seems to make sense. I mean, that's why you play the game, isn't it? But people... I went to Twitter, and you know that little search bar at the top. I just searched to see what casual fans and anything else or any other people that were talking about the game were tweeting. And there were a lot of people that were saying, yeah, well, that's what he should be thinking. And, of course, it is what he should be thinking. I mean, what else would he be playing the game for except to try and be the best? If you have the skills to be the best, then you should try and be the best. But then you get other people saying, oh, you're not a Michael Jordan. Okay, that's your opinion. But the thing that really gets me about that is a lot of the people that say that have never actually watched a game that Michael Jordan's played. I know I'm 17 and Michael Jordan's prime was well before I was alive, but I have gone back and watched tons of games, not only the games where he was dropping 50, but games where he had 19. So I know where I'm going off of this. Then you get these other people who just rely on perception or the fact that they wear Jordan sneakers, and they think that Michael Jordan's this invincible figure. And I don't think LeBron James will be better than Michael Jordan, but I just think it's funny that people can try and say something like, well, you're not a Mike Jordan when they've never really watched a game that Michael Jordan's played, let alone gone through and watched his entire career like I have. That's why it's funny to me. But then there's also other people saying, you're not even a Kobe Bryant. You needed to go to someone else's team. You needed to join up with Wade. You know what? I am so sick of hearing that, especially about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant just got Dwight Howard and Steve Nash to a team that LeBron James never even had as good a team as Kobe Bryant had last year when he was in Cleveland. But yeah, when LeBron left Cleveland from that team, it was the worst thing that's ever happened. But when Kobe Bryant says that team's not good enough, then all of a sudden we're all, oh yeah, it's not good enough. Well, it's a complete double standard. It doesn't make any sense to say that. And then people will say, when I ask these people, well, what's the difference? Kobe Bryant, for the first 3 NBA Finals he won, he wasn't even the best overall player on his team. Now, in the one year, he did perform better in the playoffs, but Kobe Bryant wasn't even the best overall player on his team, I don't believe, for those first 3 NBA Finals. So, and I'll say that, and they'll say, yeah, but Shaq came to Kobe's team. What the hell is the difference? I mean, honestly, at the very least, LeBron James was the best player on his team last year. I don't think that there's any question about that. If you still want to stick that Dwayne Wade's the best player on that team last year, you sure as hell were not watching the first half of any of those playoff teams. You sure as hell did not watch the entire playoffs, and I really do not know what you were watching last year if you think that. But go ahead and think that. The bottom line is that the way LeBron James got his first NBA Finals was going to a team that was better than the team he had in Cleveland. Well, guess what? Kobe Bryant had one of the top 10 players in NBA history on his team when he won his first 3 NBA Finals. Shaq in his prime, at least for the first couple. I don't know about the third, but at least for the first couple, Shaq was in his prime. If you think about the players that LeBron James has played with throughout the best years of his career, the considered best players, how many of them are really in their prime? Was Dwayne Wade in his prime last year? I don't think so. I mean, I think he's lost a step. I don't know. Maybe he could still be an MVP, a legit MVP candidate, but he's taken that backseat to LeBron James. He admitted that, and I think that we all realized last year that was what was best for the team because it got them a championship. So going down the list, is Chris Bosh in his prime? Maybe. But he's the third option on that team. And don't get me wrong, LeBron James plays on a really good team. But continue to go down. Mike Miller is not in his prime. He's not nearly the player that he once was. People will say, LeBron James got along with Ray Allen. Ray Allen is not in his prime. If you watched Ray Allen last year, Ray Allen is sure as hell not in his prime. Then you go back to the Cleveland days. And I'm trying to think of anyone who even you would look at and say, well, he had him on his team. People find a way to do it. So let's go to Shaq. Shaq, at that point, was essentially a big body who was not very good. He didn't even play in the playoffs that year. He was injured out for the entire playoffs. Then some of the other best players he had there, Mo Williams. Those might have been his best years, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was playing with LeBron James. Those might have been his best years, but what did Mo Williams do come playoff time those seasons? He disappeared. I mean, people talk about that Orlando Magic series with LeBron James like he had a bad series. He averaged almost 40 points in that series. That was not even a little bit LeBron James' fault that they lost that series. And yet, up until last year when people tried to use those, oh, well, he never performs in the playoffs, which was complete bullshit. LeBron James had performed in the playoffs. He just hadn't had the help. So he went to Miami where he got help. He was still the best player on his team, but he got help. Remember when Kobe Bryant got that help from Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom? Remember those two NBA titles? He got help because when he was by himself, yeah, he could put up the stats. But when he was with Kwame Brown, was he winning NBA Finals? No. No, he was not. And then I was watching this ESPN clip above the article where you get Bill Simmons, who that guy's voice, oh my God. I could not listen to another second of him talk. And Jalen Rose, who sometimes I can listen to, I'm not a huge fan of him. But Magic Johnson, oh my God. I don't know if I can take another year of listening to Magic Johnson. I mean, he's so he really brings nothing to the table. As an analyst, Magic Johnson is one of the worst analysts out there. There is nothing that I like listening. He has never made one point that wasn't extremely obvious. And then he says, well, for LeBron, if he wants to be the best player, it's just all about continuing to win these championships. And then it's talking about this Dwayne Wade, will he continue to take a back seat? And Magic Johnson makes some point about how LeBron James needed to go join Dwayne Wade's team to become the best player or to win an NBA championship. I really don't believe that's true because I think at some point in Cleveland, LeBron probably would have won one. But you know what they would have had to do in Cleveland? Get him help, which wasn't coming in the next few years because they were basically maxed out. So he had a few other options. Chicago. If he had went there, the perspective would have been, well, he needed Derrick Rose to win an NBA championship. If he went to New York, he would have needed, well, I mean, I don't even know who would have ended up in New York if he had gone to New York, but whatever other star would have gone with them. And if he had gone to Chicago, Chris Bosh actually was rumored at one point to be going to Chicago too. So, I mean, I really don't get what these people are talking about. If you look around what Kobe Bryant has had in the years where he's won the NBA Finals, the teams have been really good. And if you look at any team that we consider a serious contender in the NBA right now, they have more than one superstar on that team. And I would tend to think that Kevin Durant has a better supporting cast than LeBron James. The names, if you want to talk historically, then yeah, maybe Dwayne Wade in his prime, Ray Allen in his prime, then yeah, maybe LeBron James does have a better team. But he has a young, explosive Russell Westbrook. He's got Kendrick Perkins, who sets incredible screens. He's got Serge Ibaka, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA last year. He's got James Harden, who's on the Olympic team. He was the sixth man of the year. So, but because all those people were drafted, that's okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. So I don't understand what the big deal is that LeBron James has other superstars on his team when all these other people did too. I mean, shit, Magic Johnson had Kareem on his team. I was arguing this with someone last year who told me that LeBron James would challenge Michael Jordan to be the best player of all time. And then I went a little bit more in depth, and I realized it wasn't as blasphemous as I was making it sound. I don't think it'll happen. I think LeBron James will finish somewhere between 7 and 4. But all the superstars, all the people that you talk about in the top 10, for the most part, they had other stars with them. If you go down the list, we talk about Magic Johnson. Larry Bird had a really good team around him with Parrish, McHale, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson had Kareem. Obviously, Kareem played with the Bucks earlier on, but I don't believe he won a championship. He won numerous MVPs, but he never won a championship. Sounds pretty similar to LeBron James. Shaq had help. Hakeem had help. Tim Duncan has had help. Maybe not to the level of a Dwayne Wade, but Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, David Robinson, who's one of the top 20 players that's ever played in the NBA. People forget about that because Robinson played at the beginning of his career, but I mean that certainly counts as help. I don't understand why people. I'm going to get painted. I'm going to post this video on YouTube. And most of the comments are just going to be people saying, you're a LeBron fan. No. I mean, I like LeBron James. I enjoy watching great players. So I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and say that I'm a hater of LeBron James.
Tim.
Because that's essentially... What?
Tim, ignore him. You know why you ignore him? Because what you do, and what I do, what we do, is we relay to people what we see. Okay? And when you say something like LeBron is the best, he's better than Kobe or something like that, and then someone who doesn't like LeBron or they like Kobe because they're fans, they're not analyzing, they come to you and they're like, oh shit, what he's saying is right. But you know what? He's only right because, he's only saying this because he's a fan. Dude, that's the weakest way that they can dispute what you're saying. The weakest.
Yeah.
They're not, publishing a bunch of facts. Well, actually, Kobe is a better passer because of A, B, and C. He's a more efficient and prolific scorer because of A, B, and C. He's a better rebounder. He's a better defender, et cetera, et cetera. If they're not disputing what you are saying with facts, I have finally gotten to the point where I just ignore it. Whatever. You're letting them knock you off your square, bro. Like right now, I can tell you're sick and tired of dealing with it. Don't let them knock you off your square. You're doing a great job. That's all I want to say.
I mean, I'm sick and tired of it before the season. The season hasn't even started. Because people just make up these statements about LeBron James that just don't make any sense. I had some kid tell me the other day that, well, if the season was an 82-game season last year, LeBron wouldn't have won the MVP and the Thunder would have won the NBA Finals. I mean, I probably agree with the point he wouldn't have won the MVP. But in terms of the NBA Finals, how can you predict that? What do you think would have changed throughout those finals that would have been any different? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go through this NBA season. The first year I was on, the second year I was on YouTube, but the first year where I really got into talking the NBA on there was after LeBron James had done the decision. And essentially I just defended them to the whatever degree it took because I believed in that point. Last year I tried to back off and talk more NBA. This year I'm going to say my raw, unfiltered thoughts about it because quite honestly, Kobe Bryant is not as good as Michael Jordan. Just because he has championships and plays a similar style, I'm sorry. When I watch Kobe Bryant, I think of someone who's an all-time great, but I don't look at him as the greatest player that's ever lived. I don't look at him as really any better than Tim Duncan. And I don't look at LeBron James as better than either of them yet. But what I do look at LeBron James at is a guy who's won 3 MVPs at age 27 and is one of the best overall players, probably the best overall skilled player that the game has ever seen. And he is really fun to watch the transformation that he has made since the younger days in Cleveland till now. And I've want people to just sit back and enjoy watching this. Because we always talk about, well, who's the next Jordan? There isn't the next Jordan. But there's other all-time greats that are playing right now that if we would just get off that and enjoy them playing, then we'd be better off. The NBA might not make as much money because there's less talk about the NBA. But LeBron James is an all-time great, and he's 27 years old. LeBron James has a chance to be, he has a chance to be the greatest player of all time. He has a chance. I think it's pretty much a lock at this point. He'll be in the top 10, unless he tears his ACL today and somehow never comes back from it. I guess if that happens, then maybe he's stuck at top 15 or 20. But even if LeBron James only wins 1 or 2 more titles, the people that say, well, he needs to win 5 or 6 to be put in that class, I just don't agree. I think it's about what he does as an individual, not ranking who has the best team or who was on the best team or who was part of the best team. We're ranking who was the best overall player. And I'm sorry to the people who disagree, but LeBron James is the best player in the NBA right now. He's going to be one of the best of all time. And if you're not seeing that, then you're just really missing out. Quite honestly, you're missing out. And if you want to call him robbing the entire season again, that's another one of the things I cannot hear another season of someone saying, whose team is it? It's Robin's team. Anything like that. It's stupid. Because when I go through and I watch LeBron James, he's the most complete player I've ever watched live, live. I've watched games of Michael Jordan playing and other superstars playing, but they all had really bad weaknesses. Shaq, away from the post, what did Shaq do? Kobe Bryant's not as efficient. Kobe Bryant's not as good of a defender as LeBron James. Tim Duncan's a great player, but he's not as overall as athletic. He doesn't score as much. I mean, obviously he plays a different position, but what LeBron can do is it's incredible. When he came to the NBA, he was a 43% shooter, and then all these people talk about LeBron is such a bad shooter. He's not a great shooter. When you watch Kevin Durant will swish so many shots. I've never seen LeBron James swish a shot. But what he found last year with that Derrick Rose shot, like the flip from the foul line, I can't think of the word, but he became a better overall shooter. He became able to drive even more. And then you look not only at that, the fact that he can get rebounds, the fact that he's a great dunker, a great passer. I mean, LeBron James, his passing does not get enough credit. And then when you talk defensively what he does, it's incredible. You know, we can talk about how it's easier to play in this era because of no hand-checking, but then you also have to make the point that it's harder to play defense in this era, and what LeBron James does, obviously his body size helps him, but he's really difficult to get around. He can guard pretty much anyone. A lot of people are picking him to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think that he'll be right in the mix, probably either him or Dwight Howard. It'll be a toss-up, but I don't know. I had to get that point off because I saw people going insane about that, and quite honestly, if you don't get it with LeBron James at this point, I can't take you seriously. That's the simplest way I can put it, is that if you don't realize that, I'm not saying that Kevin Durant isn't a great player, but if you don't realize that LeBron James is the most complete player in the NBA right now, then you just don't get it. It's as simple as that.
Just a little bit around the corner from fear. Be there.